Let's go to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium where, well, pretty basically, Spurs can't win at home. And Chelsea always go away and beat Spurs. I think it's 6 of the last 7 times Chelsea have beaten them away from home now. There was a little bit of unrest, Rob, around Spurs and Thomas Frank. And I mean, the manager's still finding his way and sort of building the structures in which he wants to play. He's a guy that likes to have maybe a bit of a variation on system that maybe is a bit different to what Spurs have known. And, you know, he's been at Brentford where you're not expected to dominate possession, where you can sit back maybe a little bit. But a 1-0 win to Chelsea. Lovely goal by João Pedro after good work from Moises Caicedo. What does Thomas Frank have to do, Rob, to start to build his relationship with the fans as much as the players?
Gosh, I mean, you think about it, right? Tottenham Hotspur, it must be one of the hardest jobs as a manager to go in there and be popular with the fans, be popular, because they've seen it all. They've literally seen it all, from expanse with Ange Postecoglou and total attacking play, to then dial it back with Antonio Conte and Jose Mourinho. You know, we've had everything. And I suppose Thomas Frank is the natural next bit. Well, he'll do a little bit of both.
Yeah.
But these fans, Rob, they don't, you know, I don't know what they want. I don't know when they're going to be happy. I know they weren't happy with Daniel Levy that's left the club right now. You know, the image at the end, Rob, and we'll get to the game a little bit in a second, but the little bit of news that came out, the video that came out, Thomas Frank going onto the pitch, almost offering his hand like that to his players to congratulate them, not congratulate him, but say, you know, whatever, like hard luck or whatever, or, you know, we'll go again. And Jed Spencer's reaction to it was I thought a really bad look, actually. And I know Jed Spencer, a little bit of history. Remember, he said things about, I think, a former Middlesbrough manager that gave him some critique, was it Chris Wilder? I think it might have been. It was somebody that then he had to go back. So I think Jed Spencer's a little fiery, and then that wasn't a good look. And Thomas, then he blanked him, just walked off and was throwing his arms up. Thomas Frank looks behind, stares at him for quite a few seconds, because that's kind of humiliating for a manager.
A new manager.
It just made me think, you know, is Thomas Frank, I'll throw it to you as a question. Is Thomas Frank got the gravitas, the experience, the name, to gain the ultimate respect from the players and the support base at Spurs? Are they waiting? Well, let me just throw it to you. Is there something in it that Spurs expect something greater than Thomas Frank?
I think not, and I totally get your point, and you know that would always be the challenge of, you know, a Thomas Frank can do it at Brentford, but you know, Big Six expect you to have the ball and, you know, act and play in a certain way. But I'll point back to, you've talked about Spurs have seen it all. I'll point back to the last, what I would deem successful Spurs beyond Ange winning the Europa League, and that was Pochettino, who came in from Southampton, who's not too dissimilar in a way in terms of how they play and how he's going to conduct. A good communicator, works well with the media, plays good football, wants to do it right. Part of my issue for Thomas Frank and part of what I was writing down was, like, they're not quite good enough to play through the lines and into the midfield at the moment. It's just not a team, I don't think, that's built for that. Now, Thomas Frank's Brentford teams had physical, speedy, athletic forwards who you could go back to front to an Mbeumo, a Wissa, or a Tony and change the game that way. Well, in Spurs, you've not really got that kind of player either. If you play Moani or you're playing Tells or maybe Solanke, maybe, but I'm not sure that's his game particularly. So I'm kind of feeling like the tools that he's used to having to play the best Thomas Frank style, he hasn't got with Spurs. And so he's still working out, actually, how am I going to be successful with this group? What is the style of football that's going to get me the best results? And the other big thing, Rob, is, and I read a stat that kind of blew me away, they've only won 4 games in the calendar year the Tottenham Hotspurs.
That's crazy,
stadium.
isn't it? That's
4
crazy.
games in a stadium that big with that fan base, with you know all the atmosphere.
Yeah.
They've won 4 games
in almost a year. That's incredible.
And for managers, then you know, we both know, like, you're home, you win, the fans cheers, you have that connection, you clap them, you go off. They've had that 4 times.
Yeah.
So they're not building up that kind of relationship. Well, you remember at the G-Tech, what he'd have? He'd go round, the songs were singing, he'd go into the crowd, and they loved him.
Yeah.
And that's when I think Thomas Frank's at his best.
No, it's a good point, mate. And of course, he'll deserves to get time, and he will get time. I'm sure the frustration, Rob, of losing to a big rival in Chelsea. You know, they really don't get on, Spurs, and there's been some really physical games, and this was kind of physical. Actually, when I think back, Jed Spence, you know, it was Neil Warnock. It was the former Borough manager, Rob. It was Neil Warnock who was critical of Jed Spence, and I think it was something like, "You wait to see where I'm going to go," or there was some. So anyway, but no, it was just. I just thought they went in with the right approach. I thought they were intense. I thought it was a physical game, but Chelsea gave all that Spurs could give them and more. You know, there's a lot of talk about this Chelsea team, Rob, of being young, inexperienced, a little bit naive sometimes. They get the red cards. They're a little bit emotional at times. But I tell you what, they're physical when they need to be.
They didn't get bullied, do they? They don't get bullied.
Moises Caicedo. I mean,
we couldn't give him underappreciated, because if we could, he would have been
too late. Yeah, he is appreciated.
And he is appreciated now, isn't he?
People know, and Reece James next to him. Talk about physical players. That, I mean, Caicedo's desire to win the ball is just, it did amazing for the goal. And I mean, just in other areas, Rob, they got plenty of physicality, by the way. And you know, I know that Chelsea, that like it's been inconsistent a little bit, but I still really like what they do. And I know that they've lacked consistency. Yeah. When I watch the team plays tactically, which is what I love watching, the little details, it's different nearly every week. Yeah. You know, the way that they set up Reece James in midfield with Caicedo, you know, the wide players play differently. The fullbacks, this time it was Malagusto that played
right, didn't he, James?
Really high. Really high.
Like Cucurella came in.
So I like that. And that gets underappreciated, because that's the reason they dominate games. That's the reason why they beat PSG. And PSG was scratching their heads because they had really good movement. Cole Palmer coming in off the outside in that particular game. They're missing Cole Palmer right now. So I like what the manager does. I want this to go really well. There's hiccups that draws a big sigh from the fans, like, oh, you know, but I know there's money that they spent, and you could argue they should have spent it on ready-made players. This is a project, the Chelsea project, and this was a good day for it, because not so much because the talent of the players, but just the attitude, Rob.
Turned away from home, difficult place, physical game, and came out on top. To be honest, mate, came out on top.
Yeah, they can physical. They can play that way. They can play good football. I mean, there's still question marks of certain bits in the team. I think we all know that. But yeah, I just thought it was particularly impressive. I just thought they needed the second goal, Rob. They should have got a second goal way early.
Yeah, I was going to say, second goal would have done. But you know, I thought that their structure was better, their press was better, more organised. And Caicedo, mate, is becoming one of those players who, you know, he's not there yet, and but he's becoming the Rodri of the Man City team. Yeah. You know, that
N'Golo Kante. He's becoming Makelele type. All he needs is to win. Correct. They need to win the title. If he win a title, a Premier League title,
looking at him differently,
they're going to say, people will. I know they're just going to. And all I'm saying is, Rob, now he is at that level, and maybe the team isn't yet to win a Premier League title. Yeah. But if and when they do,
you've got a great piece.
People will then give him.
You've got a great piece already. He's young, Rob, isn't he? There's still more to come.
Yeah,
still absolutely more to come. So, good 3 points for Chelsea, and it takes them up into the table. I think 6 in the table now, when they were sitting mid-table. Yeah. Spurs still having problems at home. Still kind of can't quite seem to get it right under Thomas Frank. But
and they're 5th, Rob, aren't they? They're still
I know. It kind of tells you about the league, doesn't it?
Yeah,
they're 5th and Chelsea 6th. Yeah. So. But good win for Enzo Mustoe and his team. Good 3 points.
Hi there, I'm Rebecca Lowe, studio host of NBC's coverage of the Premier League. Don't forget to hit subscribe to watch more videos all season long, and for even more Premier League content, from original series to live matches, head over to Peacock.